In this episode, we're going to look at one of the Chinese knockoffs of the Arri 650 watt Fresnel light. Check this out. All right, let me give you a quick run through of the LS Pro Photo Studio TS 650 watt model. This is again an Arri, I say Arri, I think it's actually Arri clone, an Arri Fresnel light clone. So I'm pretty happy with this one. It is, in terms of build quality, it's quite good. It's metal and aluminum. So the blue is metal, the silver is aluminum, and it has a fin design to help dissipate the heat. The yoke itself is also metal, which is quite nice. Really, the only thing that's not metal are the knobs on here, which are plastic, which is actually kind of nice. So when it's hot, you have something that's a little cooler to hold on to. And then the connector down here at the bottom is also a very solid metal. So in terms of just the outer body, it is a very solid build. So I'm actually quite pleased and impressed with it. Now, there are a couple of other considerations as well. It does come with a set of barn doors, which is super nice. If you're looking at the Arri, they have to buy that separately. The outer electrical stuff, also pretty solid. The cable itself is very high gauge, seems like a decent quality build. The switch itself is in this large plastic protective case, and that actually works pretty well. It's not the hardest and the most durable plastic, but it seems pretty solid and has the little channels on the side to keep you from turning it on or off accidentally. And then the lower cable itself is a smaller gauge, and in this case we have a 120 volt US 3-prong plug. So again, pretty decent quality on the electrical side as well, which is pretty important with these things. These can be dangerous. They're pulling or putting a lot of wattage out. So the barn doors, again, as I said, that it comes with are quite nice. These are metal. They stay where you put them, so the build quality is quite good. They make some squeaking, but not a big deal. They come off and can go back on nicely as well. So if you're going to use them as floods and you really don't need the barn doors on there, you can take them off. But they also rotate, and of course you can adjust any of the individual doors to limit the light, or to control the light spill, and make as narrow a beam as you like. So really quite a nice build. I'm really kind of pleased with those. And barn doors, huge. If you've been operating with lights without barn doors, you will love them. There's so many things you can do with them and really kind of fine tune the lighting. Now, the focus knob itself, which is what allows you to focus the beam from flood, which is really wide, to spot, which is a narrow beam, is kind of wobbly. It's not the most precision piece of design I've ever seen, but it does get the job done. I haven't had any problems with it. It just doesn't feel really solid and doesn't really inspire confidence, if you will. But again, overall, build quality, top notch, and been very pleased with what we've been able to get out of this light so far. So I don't really have any complaints here. Again, you're getting something for about probably $300 less than the real deal. On the inside, we've got the bulb here, and this is a standard FRK bulb, 650 watt in this case, and you can order any of those from B&H Photo. And then of course the metal reflector behind it helps concentrate the light, and then the wiring behind is also quite nice here. They've got it insulated in this braided heat resistant insulation there, so looks like it's quite nice. Also, if anything went wrong, it looks like it's pretty serviceable. You could probably repair it. Now, the Fresnel lens itself is, well, actually we're missing a little screw there, but it doesn't appear to have as many concentric circles as the genuine Arri, and I think that might be part of the reason why you can't spot it as tightly as you can in Arri. So let me just show you what I mean here. So here we've got the Fresnel about 12 feet from a wall, and we're on the flood setting right now, so it's a pretty even lighting. And let me also just mention here, this was shot on a DSLR using an H.264 compression. So it's if you see any banding, it's really the compression of the video and not the light itself. I was very pleased with how evenly the light is spread, even when you're in spotting. So here we're starting to see some banding, and again, that's the video compression and not the light itself. So doesn't spot nearly as tightly as I had hoped, but of course you do have the barn doors, so you can control the light a little bit there. This is tying it down just a little bit, and we're kind of moving between spot right here, and we were at flood before. So the flood is nice. You can get a kind of a softer look to it, and of course you can use the barn doors to tighten up the pattern even more, and again rotate the barn doors to get the shape and the orientation that you want. So overall, A little disappointing that we didn't get as tight of a spot, and I think again it's because of that Fresnel lens. I don't think they did any engineering on these things. They pretty much just copied what they saw, and I think they may have made some mistakes there. But again, for my purposes, not a huge deal. Now, speaking of my purposes, again, what I was mainly buying the light for was to create more interesting patterns when I'm doing on-location interviews. And here's an example of a cookie, or a cucaloris, if you will, which really in this case is just a piece of cardboard with some cutouts, and you shoot the light through those to make some interesting patterns on the wall behind your interviewee. Now, these aren't necessarily the most inspiring, but just an idea of what they look like. And here's another one that's sort of more like a kind of the Venetian blinds look a little bit. So some things that I can use in those interviews, and they've turned out to work out pretty nicely so far. So final impressions, what do we think of this? I wouldn't call it a lighting instrument. It is probably more a piece of gear. Is it worth the $100 US that I paid for it? I think the short answer to that is yes. It is probably worth that. Is it the equivalent of an Arri 650 watt Fresnel? And I think the answer to that is no. Let me give my reasons here. Number one, I'm mainly going to be using it on a backdrop. I was hoping to use it for a couple different ways to shoot through cookies, and also just as a very simple spot on the background or backdrop. I can do the cookies, but I can't really do the spot on the backdrop very well because it just doesn't spot into tight enough a circle and a well enough to define circle. So am I a little disappointed? Yeah. Did I still get my $100 worth? I think so. So if you keep that in mind, I think this can be a decent piece if you're on a very, very tight budget and you really are just looking for something that can be used as a floodlight or to shoot through a cookie. If you're looking for something that's a spotlight, this is really not the piece of gear for you. So I hope you found that helpful. Thanks for checking out the show. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe, and we'll get you more great videos on how to improve your lighting and your sound for video. Talk to you soon.